Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Core Dog Experience, talking Ohio State Buckeyes, talking college sports, talking college sports from a fan's point of view. So if you're feeling what you're hearing, please hit that like button. If you like college sports talk in general, from a fan's point of view, please subscribe. Help a brother grow this thing out. Now the pleasantries out the way, let's talk about the game. Yes. What a way to bring in the new year if you a Buckeye fan. What a way to bring it in. Complete domination of an Oregon squad that was undefeated. 13-0. You had to ask yourself, going into this game, could Ohio State repeat the start they had against Tennessee, against Oregon? And lo and behold, if they didn't do it, and then some. Oh man, that was just a complete. That first half was just, you couldn't have wrote a better script for how that game started for Ohio State. 3 plays, touchdown to Jeremiah. Play to your strengths. Going to the game. Going to the rematch, even though I said in my previous video that I don't put much in that. It's hard to beat the same team twice, and I still don't really believe that. I do think these two teams are different a lot than what they were the first time they played, but I did think Ohio State would win comfortably for several reasons leading into the game. First of all, a whole lot went right for Oregon in that first game. We had a number of things that just went their way. First, about that kickoff that hit off the Buckeye player that Oregon recovered with, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but that was effectively a turnover, if you want to call it that way. And Oregon, of course, scored. You had the poorest pass defensive scheme, coverage, whatever you want to call it. Oregon lit Ohio State up defensively. I think that was their worst defensive showing of the year. And kudos to Oregon for exploiting whatever scheme they were doing in that first game. You knew it was going to be different this time around, but that was something they worked to perfection in that first game. Then you had Manny, Dan, manipulating the clock to his advantage. Can't be mad at him. The rule was there. He used it. They closed that loop, big ass loophole, because they closed it immediately right after that game. They seen how it affected the offense, but he used it to his credit. I ain't mad at him. You gotta do what you gotta do to win a game. You ain't trying. You know what I'm saying? And of course, the offensive pass interference that went against Jeremiah, that questionable at best, but a whole lot went right for Oregon. And of course, just time running out, getting back to Dan manipulating the clock, and Will Howard not sliding a second earlier. Though a whole lot went right for Oregon in that first matchup. And with all that said, they still only won by 1 point. 1 point. So I felt coming into this game, Ohio State weren't going to repeat their defensive stuff from that previous game. Not only they had the poorest secondary scheme, they ain't getting no pressure. I said some of this stuff got changed, and they gonna do something to change this stuff just to go around. So I thought Ohio State would win the game quite comfortably at that, mind you. I thought they would win comfortably. What I didn't see happening was the way they just totally dismantled Oregon that first half. 41-21 final score, but before you knew it, it was 34-0. We thought you blinked and they had Tennessee down 21-0. It's like, Oregon game, hold my drink. I got this first half to play against Oregon, and they just came out and they play like a team on a mission. This is the team that folks thought we would be seeing all year. It's like me, it's better late than never. You want to be playing your best football this time of year, period. And in these last 2 games, Ohio State has showed out. Final score 41-21. And again, was it even that close when you want to when you get down to it? Last two games. I ain't gonna talk about the Michigan game. Last two games. Other than to say Michigan may have brought out the beast on Ohio State. They showed Ohio State to do something that is play to your strengths. And the strength of Ohio State is the passing game, aka Jeremiah Smith. That's all you need to know. They came out early and often, hitting Jeremiah, and some more Jeremiah. And you know what? We're going to hit Jeremiah some more. Best receiver in the game as a true freshman. You can't ignore him. Even though Oregon did on the second TD. How you let him get that wide open, I don't know, but they did. He had, before you knew it, he had two of Ohio State's first 3 touchdowns, and you know he played your strength. The passing game is Ohio State's strength. For all the woes we talk about the offensive line and all the makeshift they have to do, they have given Will Howard some pass protection these last 2 games, and Will Howard has been delivering. Like I said, Ohio State came out on point. 3 plays, touchdown. Matter of fact, I think their first 3 or 4 touchdowns, the drive was 6 plays or less. Big play after big play after big play. And again, Jeremiah, he had him a day when it was all said and done. He had 2, set the stage. Like he's going into the game, he said, 1-on-1, nobody can cover me. They asked him after the game, and he said, you know, you say it, you got to back it up, and he backed it up. For the day, he had 7 receptions, 187 yards, and I said 2 of the first 3 touchdowns, and got Ohio State off to a tremendous start offensively. Oregon didn't know what hit them. The defense complimented well. Defense got the stops, and just when you thought we're going to hit you with Jeremiah again, boom, Henderson bust one for 66 yards, and like I said before, you knew it, 34-0, and Oregon just stunned. And you knew they was panning the crowd, the Rose Bowl crowd, and the Oregon fans were just looking in disbelief, and I don't blame them. They have not seen that happen to their team, especially this season, with this group of guys to be down like that. And Ohio State, they were just on point, period. Offensively, defensively, complemented the offense. They harassed Dillon all game long, and I think the first quarter told it all. Ohio State had nearly over 200 yards of offense, and I think Oregon had 6. This is Oregon's offense. They couldn't move the ball, period. Like I said, that first outing, Ohio State nearly gave up 500, if not, I think nearly 500, if not 500 yards to Oregon. This game, they held them down to 300. Defense stepped up big time. Again, they didn't have any sacks that first game. They came out with 8 sacks this game. And if Dillon wasn't as mobile as he was, they would have way more sacks. I think coming into the game, Oregon had only given up 13 sacks. If Dillon was not as mobile as he was, Ohio State would have had 13 sacks in this game alone, because he was scrambling a lot. Very mobile in the pocket, very agile in the pocket. Kept some drives alive because of his mobility. But they wasn't letting him get on those runs he had in that first game. He was breaking off runs in the first game. This game, not so much. Cody Simon was spying him for much of the game. And they limited him on those quarterback runs that he excelled at in the first outing. This time out, he moved around in the pocket and found open receivers, kept drives alive, but said it wasn't him being as mobile as he was. Ohio State I don't know why I can't never say that that sentence. Ohio State would have had 13 sacks. I'll just put it like that. If Dillon wasn't so mobile as he was. But because that was the big critique against Ohio State's defense. They couldn't get no pressure on Dillon. They corrected that and then some. Like like the Tennessee game, Dillon and his feet was Oregon's best offense. Nico in the Tennessee quarterback, that was their best offense. Him running around, making yards and doing stuff with his legs, because they couldn't really throw the ball. They couldn't pass protect, and now it was Tennessee's best offense. And lo and behold, that was pretty much Oregon's best offense. Dillon extending plays by moving around in the pocket, being mobile in the pocket, and finding open receivers after they finally were able to get open against our secondary. Not a lot of man-to-man. Speaking about that pass defense, they kept everything underneath because they got burned a lot in that first game. Evan Stewart lit him up. He didn't play that much this game. I think they said he got hurt pre-game, so he wasn't out there. Oh well. I feel sorry for you, though. We were missing offensive linemen. It was we're down to our third stringers amongst our offensive line, and we're going to talk about our offensive line. But it was next man up. Number one team, next man up. But he wasn't out there, and he torched Ohio State first time around. This time, I think they changed it up. I don't know if him being out there would have made much of a difference anyway, because like I said, Dillon he didn't have time to throw the ball. JTT, Sawyer, Tyleek, they couldn't handle Tyleek. He was just busting up the middle all game long. They could not block him. Dillon, he I ain't gonna say he struggled. He had a good game, but he had to move around a lot. He was pressured a lot, and again, if he wasn't as agile and mobile as he was, Ohio State very may well have had. There, I said it. May well have had 13 sacks. Oh, because he's only been sacked 13 times all season. Ohio State had 8 sacks alone in this game against Dillon. His counterpart, I spoke briefly about Will Howard. He did it against Tennessee, dropping dimes. He just pinpoint accuracy on several of these downfield throws. I just remember my one thing about Will Howard this season is some of his deep balls have been underthrown, but man, if he's not been accurate these last 2 games. The second TD to Emeka was just you can't thread the needle any better than that. Then the defensive back, unbeknownst to him, tipped it. What concentration shown by Emeka, he still reeled it in for that second touchdown to go up 14-0. And then again, I said Jeremiah scored two of the 3 first touchdowns, and excellent play call, excellent route running. But I don't know how you let Jeremiah Smith get that open. Or they were confusing the secondary that whole first half, and how Jeremiah got that open. That's just a crime to leave a safety one-on-one with Jeremiah Smith. That safety had no chance. He was all turned around, discombobulated, and Jeremiah was wide open for that third TD. How you gonna let the best receiver get that open? You got to put 2 men on them all the time. Oh wait, you can't, cause Emeka will eat you up. You do that. Just like pick your poison. Pick your poison again. I said Trevion. A lot of people were questioning why you want Quinshon Judkins coming in. You see why. You see how fresh Trevion is this time of year, especially have him being banged up in previous seasons. Dude is fresh. He's healthy. This is what you want this time of year. 2 running backs playing off each other. Judkins comes in. He can be the hammer sometimes, even though Trevion can be a hammer himself, but just fresh legs at this time of the year, and I think that showed on that 66-yard run. He busted it out there. Ain't too many people gonna catch Trevion from behind. Just fresh legs. That's why I like the 2 backs. Hope they utilize that going forward. They have them 2 capable backs who are somewhat similar in style, but just a little, just enough of a difference between the 2. I consider Quinshon more of the power runner, even though he has speed, and Trevion more of the speed runner, even though he has powers. Obviously, how that dynamic plays off. But Will Howard was on point. The running game was on point, set up by our passing game, and Chip Kelly called a hell of a game for Will Howard in that offense. Like I said, Will Howard had over 300 yards passing, the 3 TDs, and he was making good decisions with the ball. And some of his games, he hadn't always made some of the best decisions, trying to force stuff in there. But the play calling, And even in he made good decisions with the ball, went through his reads, and again he was just putting on pinpoint accurate passes to keep chains moving, hitting Jeremiah on some of those out patterns where it just game of inches, y'all, and he was putting it just right on the spots where only Jeremiah could catch it, and he was doing good. That was the question mark coming in. How would Will Howard hold up? He did not look good in the last regular game of the season, and against Tennessee and against Oregon, like I said, he's been on point, and let's hope he continues to play that way moving forward. Texas is going to be another different set of problems. I think their DBs may be a little bit better than Oregon's DBs were this game, so we will see how that holds out. But how were they able to stand back there? Large in part because our offensive line is starting to look like an offensive line, given all the injuries, given all the stuff. Losing your Remington Award winner and McLaughlin, and really not missing a beat. In particular in the passing game, Heisman stepped in. Think that experience he got last year has proven well. Even Ryan Day hinted upon it. He's a lot more confident now, and it's been, I ain't gonna say seamless transition. You don't lose a Remington Award winner and not feel the effects of across the rest of the offensive line. But the line is held up well. Very little pressure on Will Howard. He's able to stand back there, and me and a lot of Ohio State fans have given Justin Fry a lot of crap. You know, the way his lines have performed, where he can't seemingly recruit folks. But he brought in McLaughlin, who was, I don't say ran out of Alabama, but he had his issues at Alabama. He comes here and he becomes the Remington Award winner. Say what you want about Josh Simmons before he went down. He had a lot of penalties, but he developed into a first, second round draft pick. Jonathan Jackson has to slide out there, and we really haven't missed a beat. Shuffling around our offensive guards in between Montgomery, Tegra, Severell, Austin. I'll go with his first name. I can't say his last name, man. And they have held up well. In particular on that's becoming the bread and butter on some of our running plays. That the run that Henderson busted against Tennessee, the same play call busted against Oregon, and it was blocked beautifully in both games. So again, kudos to that offensive line. They might be gelling. They starting to gel. They're starting to feel good. Hopefully they can keep it up against what's going to be another good front in Texas. But next man up. Next man up. So they're missing Evan Stewart. Next man up. We've been shuffling around the offensive line all season. And like I said, that first half may have been the best half of football for a long, long time for these Buckeyes. Because I was thinking about it. The only thing that comes to mind in terms of a half of football may have been that first half. Cardale Jones, Big Ten championship game against Wisconsin. I don't know if he can throw it better. But that's the only one that comes to mind. Cardale was on point. The offense was on point. They needed that win to get into the playoffs anyway. That was the inaugural BCS playoffs. So they needed to get in there with BCS. The CFP, the first 4-team playoff, and they needed that win to get into the playoffs to begin with. And we all know what happened following that game. Cardale went on to legendary status after his "we ain't come here go no school" for Cardale. But since then, I don't know if I've seen a better half of football since that half against Wisconsin. Offensively, defensively, special teams, fielding. When he trotted out there for that first field goal, everybody. Everybody was like, come on, man. Come on, Justin. And when he made that first one to go up 17-0, I said, all right, he might call. Justin get the yips. He missed one. He going to miss some more. Remember earlier in the season, he couldn't even do a kickoff. That shit kept going out of bounds. So he get the yips real quick. He see one go through, he might be all right. But he see one not go through, yeah, that's going to be disaster the rest of the game. So it was good to see him put that first one through, then of course he made his other one. So good for him. Hopefully that will hold steady the rest of the playoffs. But but that was a good first half. Might be the best half of football in since that Wisconsin game. And of course that was the Big Ten championship. This was a much bigger stage, maybe. I mean, we needed that Wisconsin game to get into the CFP back then. And this is just to move on to the semifinals, which basically both the same. Needed them. Wisconsin game got us into the semifinals. This game getting us into the semifinals. So we'll see. But I can't think of a better half other than those two halves come to mind. If someone else out there can think of one about a better half of football that Ohio State has played, please let me know. I'm offensively, defensively, special teams. Let me know. Because I can't think of nothing other than that Wisconsin game and Cardell Jones. They got up 34-0. So I'm saying hold them out. Don't let them score. Because Oregon gets the ball. Started the second half. But like I said, Dylan using his legs, kept plays alive, kept drives alive. And they worked their way down into the touchdown right before the half. So it's like, all right, 34-8. They get the ball coming out the second half. We get the stop ball game, right? Get the stop ball game. We get them 3rd and 22. You think we gonna get off the field? Dylan, to his credit, worked the pocket, stayed alive just enough to get them down to 30. Got 21 yards. 22 needed to go, and of course they get the 4th down conversion, and they go on down to score. All right, they score. We gotta match them, right? We gotta win the first 4 minutes of the second half. What a lot of coaches will say. What does Ohio State promptly do? They go 3 and out. Jeremiah don't touch the ball. It's like, oh. They go down as if Oregon gets the ball and goes down and score, we might just have a little bit of a ball game here, a la Texas, Arizona State. You can't collapse like that. You can't take your foot off the pedal. So that's following the punt. We needed that defensive stand just to keep. Just need to do something to rip their hearts out, because the hearts weren't totally ripped out just yet. That score at the half, we've just going into the half, gave them some life, got the crowd back into it, and then they come out, get that 3rd and 22, end up getting the 1st down. On that 4th down play, they go down and score. All you know is 34-15. It's like, oh man, all right. And we go 3 and out, but the defense stepped up again. That's it. Compliment. Total team effort. They force Oregon to punt. We promptly go down and score by going back to Jeremiah. You go to your strengths. I think Jeremiah got 2-3 passes, completions on receptions on that drive, and of course Trevion closes it out. And before you know, ball game. That was essentially the ball game. We had to match them that 3rd quarter. Whatever they would have scored 2 touchdowns, damn it, Ohio State would have needed to score 2 touchdowns. They scored 1 touchdown, damn it, Ohio State needed to score 1 touchdown. We needed to keep that pressure on them because time was on our side. That's the important thing. Time was on our side. So whatever Oregon did, Ohio State had to match just to keep that gap. I think when Trevion scored, I ain't gonna say it totally took their heart, but you can see a lot of the energy just sapped out of them, because they knew it was an uphill battle. After that, it's hard to score. I think they went back down by 26 points. It's hard to score 4 touchdowns in only a quarter. And that's basically what they were looking at, having to overcome a 26-point deficit in 1 quarter alone. Quite different than what Arizona State did, overcoming a 16-point deficit like they did against Texas. But Oregon, once Trevion got that second TD, that pretty much was ball game. And then it was just, and then the rest of the clock, they really didn't do much. Ohio State, I don't want to say they took their foot off the pedal. They did just enough. where they didn't have to exert themselves offensively because the defense again was harassed, got sacks, timely sacks against Dillon, timely sacks and tackles for losses. And the defense pretty much held up their end in that second half, where the offense really didn't have to do anything other than match Oregon. Because you had a feeling that if Oregon did score, the way the offense was playing, Oregon wasn't going to stop us. They just weren't. So if Oregon would have scored, I'm pretty sure Ohio State they would have opened up the playbook again and scored. I don't think they totally went conservative, but they did what they had to do to make the clock run so they could get out of there with the win. Said 41-21. Was it really that close? Really? I don't think it was. 'Cause I think Ohio State probably could have scored at will. One of those games they probably could have scored at will if they had really wanted to against Oregon, because they had no answers for our offense. It's a totally different game than when we played them up in Corvallis. They could not stop us. And again, just looking at the stats here, when it was all said and done, Ohio State had over 500 yards of offense. Oregon had under 300 yards. Big one that stands out to me, because Oregon was able to get the running game going that first game around. Jordan James, I think he got popped. Lace and Ransom popped him, and after that, he went into concussion protocol or something. But he ain't played that much longer after that Ransom hit, and they ended up with minus 23 yards rushing when it was all said and done. This is Oregon we talking about. Minus 23 yards rushing. Ohio State had over 100 rushing yards. So again, kudos. A lot of that was some big runs by both Trevion and Quashan. He had him some chunk runs as well. And it was just total domination. Again, passing yards. Oregon under 300 yards passing yards. Dillon didn't have to have the time he had that first go around. Just the defense really stepped up, much like they did against Tennessee. And Oregon, that's just something Oregon has not been used to this season. Again, 500 yards for Ohio State, under 300 for Oregon, and they weren't used to that type of pressure. They haven't been in that situation all that much this year. The best game they had this year was, again, that 1-point win, the closest against Ohio State up in Corvallis. That was the closest game they had it all year. Dillon was not comfortable when they weren't sacking him. We're batting the balls down. Sawyer could have had him a couple interceptions, but just he was right there. He had just that much for having a couple of them, but we batted like 3 or 4, 5 balls down. I think Sawyer had 3 of his own. Larry Johnson was rotating the defensive bodies in and out. I mean, all of them contributed. Hamilton, Tyleek Williams, McDonald, Hero Kainu, he got it. I mean, Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, they just rotated fresh body after fresh body, and they just had constant pressure on Dillon. Like I said, the defensive scheme, they didn't really blitz that much. Like I said, they were using Cody as a spy, and the 4 interior linemen were getting pressure either off the edges, and like I said, Tyleek was blowing up the middle. They had Cody Simon spying him, which accounted for him not getting those big chunk runs that he did the first game, but he had to utilize and move around in the pocket and find open receivers down the field. So, like I said, the DBs, Burke, Igbenogson, they kept everything in front of them. The one deep pass they did try to throw against Ohio State hit Igbenogson on the head, and he didn't grab him. Cause you see that number 1 chasing somebody down the field, you think he gonna reach out and grab the dude, but to his credit, Grabby Igbenogson didn't. I may have to stop calling him Grabby, because I don't think he had a PI penalty in that Tennessee game. He might just be back to Igbenogson. I ain't gonna call him Grabby no more till he grab the next time. Cause he know he do one. This is the second game now. He ain't doing. I ain't gonna jinx him, right? I ain't gonna jinx him. Keep playing good. Keep playing good, Igbenogson. Don't grab nobody. But they made Oregon work. That's all you needed them to do. Work. Don't let them get deep. Don't let no big explosive plays. You had the big lead. If they gonna score on you, take time off the clock, and they hinted as much in some of his post-game interviews. Yeah, we're going to keep everything in front. We're going to make them work. They're going to score touchdowns. They're going to take some time off the clock. Because eventually they're going to run out of time. They're going to run out of time. But it was just a good game all the way around. They did just what they needed to do in the second half. They matched Oregon's score, which is basically all you needed to do. Oregon scores, you score. Ball game. And it was just a good game for Ohio State. Following that Tennessee game, you thought maybe they're gonna let their foot off the gas. How are they gonna come back and play? And like I said, they outdid themselves in this game. And doesn't hurt that no, it's Oregon. It was Oregon. Oregon had gotten us in the last couple regular season games, but in postseason play, Ducks have not fared well against Ohio State in postseason play. Found this little tidbit here. In postseason games, they got us the last two in the regular season. They came to Columbus and beat us once. And of course, we went out there and had the 1-point loss. And then the other one was canceled due to COVID. So we don't know how that game would have turned out. But postseason play, you see here, 58 Rose Bowl, Ohio State won. 2010 Rose Bowl, Ohio State won. That's when Terrell Pryor, best athlete on the field, he's a man amongst boys. We beat Oregon then. We were underdogs that game, I believe, with Terrell Pryor. And then, of course, Cardell Jones and Ezekiel Elliott just dominated very much in the same fashion we saw here in this game here. And that game could have been a lot more lopsided with Cardell and Zeke, if not for the turnovers. If you remember that game, we had turnovers after turnovers, what kept Oregon in that game. But, again, that ended up being a blowout. Of course, the previous game, we had beaten Alabama. And, of course, and then this game here, the 2025 Rose Bowl quarterfinal, Ohio State pretty much dominates Oregon again. So Oregon needs to avoid us in the postseason. Regular season, y'all got a chance. Postseason, not so much. Not so much. Watch some of the post-game interviews and press conferences with the coaches. And I have to say, unlike some of the stuff we saw with some of the coaches the other day, i.e. Beamer and Brett Belima, Dan's a class act. I like Coach Lanning. He's a class act because he was given every opportunity in the world to make excuses for his team's performance. A reporter asked him, did the layoff hurt you guys any? He goes, no excuses. We felt we were ready to play. They were a better team. A lot of coaches may try to do the wordsmith on that and say, oh yeah, some of that may affect, but he's like, nope, no excuses. They even tried to ask him, do you think it's fair you had to play Ohio State? He goes, no excuses. We had a chance. We had a chance just like they had a chance. They made good on their chance. We didn't. You gotta admire that. He ain't make no excuses for his team. Gave kudos to Ohio State, who was the better team. And he ain't gonna do it. He ain't take the bait. He ain't say nothing. You know what? I'm gonna do it for him. I'm sorry, but there's no way in the world you the number one seed and to buy a side, like some coaches welcome it, some don't. He ain't gonna use that as an excuse. Kudos for him, but you cannot be the number one overall seed and have to play Ohio State in your opening round in the first time you step onto the field in the playoffs. That's just no way that should be happening in the quarterfinals. Yeah, Ohio State may have brought some of it on themselves by losing that final regular season game. I ain't gonna say their name. Ohio State may have brought some of it on themselves for losing that final regular season game why they ended up as the number 8 seed. But there's no way in hell Oregon should have been playing at Ohio State, which is arguably the most talented team in this playoffs. You know, and if they play up to their capabilities like they did these first two games, I really don't see anyone beating them. That's Texas included. But again, that's going to be this topic of discussion for another day. But that game should not be. Ohio State and Oregon should not be happening in the quarterfinal. And so far, Not only that, but all conference champions have lost. And I don't know if you want to put it on the bye week, because all of them are coming off byes. All of them haven't played in a couple weeks. Oregon hasn't played in a couple since the Big Ten championship game. Boise State hasn't played. And Arizona State hasn't played. Even though they gave Texas a run for their money. And not only that, all the conference champs, save for Georgia, came into their quarterfinals as underdogs. So something needs to change. Arizona State put up a good game, but they shouldn't have beat them. Arizona State. Did y'all see that game? Some of you Buckeye fans, I'm getting ready to go. Some of y'all go know what I'm talking about. Targeting. I guess SEC players do not commit targeting at all, because on their final drive, was that not helmet to helmet? Was that dude not defenseless? The dude was laid out on the and they did not call targeting. This is after the review. I don't know. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm going to reference. Marvin Harrison, Georgia targeting they actually called it on the field in that game, but the booth overturned that one. This time they didn't even call it on the field. The booth looked at it and still determined it wasn't targeting. Because if they had called targeting on that thing, Arizona State most likely goes down and kicks a field goal ball game, because Texas played around, I don't know, and let Arizona State storm all the way back from a 16-point deficit in the fourth quarter. But like I said, targeting, I don't know what's targeting, what isn't. If y'all feel that was targeting, I like to y'all's comments on that, because anyway, good game, Arizona State. You came back. Scatbo's everything they said he was. Dude put up. He's a player. He's a player. But anyway, that said, they shouldn't have been a number 4. They shouldn't have been a top 4 seed. As good as they played. So Boise State, good story. Shouldn't have been a top 4 seed. They deserve to be in. I still think the committee got the teams right, especially how this rest of this stuff is played out. Especially since we've seen the SEC, it's not all that. They do more whining than they do winning. More winning, less whining. You guys might get in the playoffs. I'm just saying. They got the 12 teams right. They just need to think about this reseeding stuff, or how these teams are seeded. Just because you're a conference champion, you should not get an automatic top 4 seed. You should not get an automatic bye. If anything, because Ohio State should not be playing Oregon in the quarterfinals. That's just my opinion on that. That's the one thing I do think that needs to change when they reevaluate this stuff for next season. How they do the seeding, how they're going to treat these conference champions should be like the March Madness. Just because you win your conference championship don't mean you're going to automatically get the top seed. And if you do get the top seed, you got to play a game. Don't give up. That's depending on where you sit on that side of the fence. Do you want to rest an additional 2 weeks, or do you want to play and not get out of and not lose that thing about being laid off, having laid off? And because we've seen that affect Ohio State after bye weeks. They did not look sharp following the bye week. I think when Nebraska comes to mind, I can't think of the other game, but following bye weeks, Ohio State did not look fresh. They did not look good. They looked lackadaisical, and I don't know if you want to say that carried over to these teams that got this bye week, but all of them lost. All of them. Boise State lost, even though I think Penn State was a better team, period. Arizona State lost, even though Texas was a better team, period. And Oregon lost, and Ohio State, based on the betting lines, was the better team, period. Ohio State was favored by, 3 points, and they ended up winning by 20. So I don't know. They need to think of how they're going to do this seeding stuff moving forward, because, again, Dan Lanning ain't going to say it, but he should not have been playing Ohio State. That should not be the number 1 overall seed's reward, is playing the most talented team, arguably the most talented team in college football. As your first time stepping on the field after a 2-3 week hiatus. That's me. I made there, Dan. You too classy to say it. I'm gonna say it for you. You should not have played Ohio State. Ohio State, that seems to be getting into a groove this time of year and see if we can keep it going when they go to Texas, Arlington, is it the Cotton Bowl, whatever bowl that's going to be for the semifinals against Texas. That should be another good game. Getting anything, Ohio State fans, believe it or not, I don't believe I'm about to say this. There are still some fans that don't care what Ohio State does this postseason because Ryan, they lost to Michigan. There's some that still don't care. It's hollow. It don't mean nothing because they lost to Michigan. You still got some fans that feel that way. You got a lot of those fans that sort of changed their tune, thought Ohio State was going to lose to Tennessee. They're ready to pile on again. But you still got some fans, that but crowd, that's still hanging on to that Michigan loss, and they don't care what Ryan Day do. Is that you? Please tell me that ain't one of y'all. If you listen to this, please tell me that ain't one of y'all. Ohio State should go on to win. Is the victory going to be hollow? Are these two playoff wins hollow? I think Ryan Dayson now evened out his postseason CFP record. I think they said it was 3-3 now. He can correct a lot of wrongs during this playoffs. Is that going to be enough for some of y'all Ohio State fans, the lunatic friends, so to speak? Some of the they getting that percentage just going down. That percentage that was there after the Michigan loss, it ain't so big now. Because a lot of those folks thought Ohio State was going to lose to Tennessee. After that win and after that dominant performance, that percentage got a little, that but crowd got a little bit smaller. It's still there. Even following this game, that but crowd is still there. Who knows? We go into they go into Arlington and beat Texas. Be interesting to see if how much of that but crowd is still there. But they still there. They still there. You got some of them that are still there. It's crazy, I know, but you got some that are like that. Other than that, so again, great. You couldn't ask for a better start to the playoffs for Ohio State versus Tennessee, and to do a repeat performance pretty much against Oregon. These guys might be gelling at just the right time in the season, and hopefully they can keep it going in the next round. So we'll see how that goes. So again, way to start off the new year. If you're a Buckeye fan, couldn't ask for a better start for those that made the trip to Pasadena. They get to go home smiling. Unlike the Tennessee fans that made their trip to Columbus a week ago. But it was a good start to the New Year's, and we'll see how it goes next week. And Ryan Day seems to be dialed in, and hopefully the rest of the team's dialed in the rest of the way. So again, if you're feeling what you're hearing, please hit that like button. Comment on anything that you've heard that I talked about. The start by Ohio State. Was this the best half of football you've seen by the Buckeyes? Like I said, the only thing that comes to mind is that first half against Wisconsin where Cardell Jones and Zeke just balled out. The defense balled out. Was it Melvin Gordon? I think held Melvin Gordon in check. It was just beautiful first half of football, and this one comes close, if not surpasses, that half of football. Those are only two halves I can think about where the team was just clicking on all cylinders. Is Ryan Day good? Y'all, is that Michigan hollow? Is that Michigan loss a little bit further in the distance now? You know, to me it is. So we'll see. But again, just comment. I try to hit back everything and comment back. And so good win on to Texas. See how that game plays out. And until next time, OHIO, go Bucks. I'm out.